Bradford Ferguson is with me today to talk about the very most important thing that is happening in America today, maybe the most important thing that's happening in the world today, definitely the most important thing that's impacting the stock market today, and by virtue of that, impacting Tesla stock. Got any theories, Brad, what I'm talking about? You want to guess what I'm talking about?
No, hit me with it.
Okay, so we can talk about the big, beautiful bill. We could talk about tariffs. We could talk about the war in different parts of the country. We could talk about energy as being equal to wealth now, which has become a big thing that people are talking about. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff we could talk about that might be what I'm talking about, but it's not. The number one thing that's impacting all of us right now, in my opinion, is, is either AI is going to dramatically impact GDP, or
Hmm.
it's not.
Right.
If the people like the All In podcast and the B2G guys and Peter Thiel and I mean go down the list, either all of and Elon Musk and Kathy Wood, and I mean actually I just keep going on and on and on. Either
Hmm.
all of them are
Or wrong.
wrong,
Hmm.
and we're just going to go along at 2.5% GDP increases in the United States for the next 10 years, or all of them are right, and we're going to start hitting 3.5, 4. Kathy Wood thinks 7 to 10% GDP increases. And if they are right, everything changes. The big beautiful bill won't matter. The tariffs won't matter. The bond prices currently that are a problem won't matter. I mean, everything else that we're talking about right now goes away if GDP starts increasing at even 4% a year average, would just completely wipe out all the rest of the concerns. Or am I completely wrong?
It would alleviate some concerns around how much we're spending versus GDP. That's for sure. It would alleviate concerns around the impact of trade on the US. I would agree with that. Yeah. Those are two really big items.
Two really big items. So, in other words, the income tax revenues would dramatically increase because if your GDP is going up, then people are being paid more, companies are being paid more, their earnings are higher, so they'd be paying way more into the federal government than they are now. And there's a famous line called, "Well, we can grow our way out of it."
Hmm.
And normally that has had to do with Art Laffer and his, trickle down theories from the Reagan
Right.
administration. But we're not talking about that this time. We're not even talking about the benefits of lowering the taxes on tips or on Social
Hmm.
Security or on overtime hours or et cetera. No, we're talking about a massive change in the human experience in terms of the impact of AI on productivity. And
Hmm.
that's not just with regard to what I can do on my laptop, which you guys are experiencing already in your office, by hiring people to specifically take advantage of it. You yourself are taking
Hmm.
advantage of it on a daily basis. You've talked about this on the show, but we're also talking about robotaxi, Optimus, drones, all kinds of things that are going to be operating with an AI benefit that is going to eliminate some kinds of labor, increase the amount of labor per person that they can, which is
Hmm.
productivity. That's just the definition. So, do you think that's what's going to happen? And do you think, as some do, that we might start seeing some of the benefits starting to show up in GDP as early as the fourth quarter? Do you think it's next year? Do you think it's 2027? What you again, as an investment advisor and somebody who plays the stock market every day, you've got to be thinking about this. It's got to be way up in your mind in terms of the impact.
Yeah, I think that AI is still in the realm of the early adopters, but I think companies, large enterprise has gotten religion around this, and companies are beginning to really scramble to utilize it. But utilizing it fully to it the most extreme extent, I think is still somewhat limited. So one example of this is if you talk to software engineers and you ask them, what percent of your code is written by artificial intelligence, and many of them are still going to give an answer that's below 100%. Now our firm is so small that we can do 100%, but I hired a full stack developer. He knows how to program, and he's doing 100% AI written, where a vast majority is written by what's called agentic AI, where it does multiple steps in a row to before you're required to give it feedback again. So it'll edit the code, it'll run it, it'll debug it, um, and like give you some feedback on it. And so that's unusual. Lemonade, they have said that 100% of their code is now AI written, and they just had a job posting from their chief technology officer named 𝐒𝐚𝐿𝐽𝐿. Um, he said 100% of their code is written by AI, and they're using agentic AI. And it's like a special new position they're offering. So I think this is still a bit on the frontier, but it's quickly changing business where this is my belief. Maybe I'm a little ahead of things. Maybe I got Elon thinking on timing, but I feel like business is going to drastically change in the next 2 years.
In the next 2 years. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll give an example. This is just a simple thing, but I was talking with a client and he said that they needed to compare two different contracts or SOP manuals, and each of them was 50 pages long. One was from 2019, one from 2023. And so uh, essentially they could upload the text and ask for, okay, what changed between these two? They could also ask themselves, are we doing this? Are we actually practicing this? Um, Whereas before AI, you would have had to tell someone, okay, I need you to read both of these and then highlight the comparisons. And that would take longer than a day.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
it'd be terrible.
yeah.
That would be an awful job. So you get rid of a lot of those tasks and like suddenly you're just hitting things faster and you're able to take on bigger projects. You're just able to do much more. So I think that unlocks GDP, it reduces your cost, increases profit, it allows you to hire more people. I believe AI is going to lead to more hiring for a while.
Hmm.
And I think where people are struggling is, well, things are getting easier, so you don't need as many people. But if your people are delivering 50% more productivity or more, and you don't have to pay them 50% more, then you probably want to hire more people
Yes.
because then you can grow your business and your sales team is going to get more efficient. And then you have your marketing team, nurturing your leads, and then your operations people you're making more efficient. So like there'll be parts of your business that are going to break. But then you attack that with the AI or whatnot to get more efficient.
Yeah. So you think that, so would that feeling that it will take a couple of years to really start hitting the economy. Do you think by that, do you mean that it could be June of 2027 before we start seeing an actual GDP of 4.5% RC productivity?
Yeah. Good
That
question. I think it'll start hitting GDP before that.
it'll hit GDP before that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So first quarter, second quarter. I mean, I know that it's impossible to nail it down, but you think it could be as early as first or second quarter of next year?
Yeah, I
Okay.
do.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
I think that's possible.
Okay. So if that happens and we start to see those GDP numbers, then we would be looking potentially at the rally of all rallies in the stock market.
Yeah, if GDP uptick without a big increase in inflation, I would agree with that. And this is all about implementing the current AI. So it's not dependent on us 10xing our compute and getting all this new power online. I'm
No,
just talking about taking what we already have and implementing it. So I think there's a lack of implementation quotient with what's going on. Like we don't need a million calorie counting apps. Like
right,
it's trivial to make one of those now. Like
right,
Randy, you could make one.
right. Yes,
I,
yes,
I forget what the app is, but like there's an app where you can do that.
yes, yes.
But so here's the unlock. I kind of forgot to say it. We're going from a world where software is feature limited to one where it's unbounded. It's only bounded by your creativity or how much data you have or what your boldness and oh, let's see if we can actually do this. Um, so you're going from software that's limited in features to unlimited. And
Yeah,
I think that's going to create a lot of business, a lot of opportunity, a lot of activity. Um, when I hired this full stack developer, I have ideas for making our software so much better that I think I could spin off businesses to do this.
spin-off. Yeah,
Like our portfolio accounting software, I think could um, we can just offer something that's much better than anything else on the market just because you can easily code it now. And I think the software companies don't really understand, you know, what people are wanting. Maybe I'm a little arrogant, I don't know, but there's other things I'm looking at like client relationship management software
yeah.
and making a real killer version of that where um, there's just not the killer feature out. I'm not going to describe it because I want to make it first. Um, business intelligence. I there's a spinoff I'm thinking of with that. So and that's just me. That's just with my limited industry knowledge. I do think it. I do think having some industry knowledge or experience helps. So you understand like the issues that are in the industry. You understand what you would like, how you would like it to be.
Mhm, mhm.
Um, so I think this is going to create a ton of value.
And again, if it happens the way you and I are talking about it, and again, a lot of smart people, if it happens the way that we're visualizing it, it unlocks value in corporations that are currently being traded because they would theoretically, the top 500 companies on the S&P, et cetera, would theoretically be the earliest adopters of all,
Hmm.
at least most of them. So they would be seeing earnings results out of this sooner than others. We know that there's already a lot of that happening in customer relations or customer service apps and
Hmm.
whatnot, where you don't need the customer service person any longer. But there's so many more, so many more things I could. I've been imagining these things for years. I'm too old to go out and do them at this point in my life, but it just boggles my mind. at the potential for, well, I mean, the way I've been thinking of it lately has been 20 years ago, I wouldn't have considered creating my own website.
Hmm.
10 years ago, I did build my own websites on Wix, but with great difficulty, with great uncertainty, with great concern that I would screw something up, even though it was pretty simple. And I have a lot of experience with that kind of stuff. So even with my experience, I was pretty nervous. So I continued to hire somebody out of the Philippines in order to
Hmm.
build my websites. Today, creating a website on Wix, especially as these agents come in and are able to test and make sure there's nothing wrong, I mean, it's going to be as easy as saying, I'd like to have a website that would help me with my real estate business or whatever. Uh,
Hmm.
and it's going to give you 15 choices in 5 minutes of the design,
Yeah.
the layout, the words, everything else. As many. Oh no, I don't like any of those 15. Give me 15 more. I mean, it's a really different environment.
You can connect your systems in ways that it wasn't thought possible before. I posted about the shift in software, and someone replied that, they're looking at their engineering systems and whether they can automate, carrying something from, one station or one step of the process to the next. Um, or be able to translate things where it just goes more smoothly, and um, being able to do that in-house without having to hire uh, a bunch of expensive consultants, or it just being possible versus
Yes,
like being
yes.
impossible before. um, yeah, I think that's where the unlock is. Like literally, you could have AI write COBOL for you if you want.
Yeah, yeah, if you needed to. Absolutely. Yeah, easily. Yeah, it's not even that hard. So there's going to be some big winners. The energy stocks are going to be big winners. And I know a while ago you were looking at that gas, uh, 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 gas, the company that was going to provide electricity for some of the data centers using
Hmm.
natural gas.
Hmm.
There's other companies out there right now that are looking at nukes, and they've become the big conversation over the last couple of days. I'm forgetting the name of this one company. I can't.
There's Oklo or Okla from Oklahoma.
Yeah, yeah. There's another
They're
one that's
nuclear.
very
There's like 10 to 20 of them.
right, and they're coming out of the woodwork, and people are paying a lot of money for them now. And are you paying any attention to more attention to the energy sector as a result of this boom that's going to be coming? Is that something that you guys are really looking at?
We believe that the demand for compute from AI data centers isn't going to stop once all this AI work is done for business, like with text for business.
Okay.
So I think intelligence with text, intelligence amplification, that's a solved issue. Um, it's very good now. It's very useful now. We don't have artificial general intelligence yet or artificial super intelligence yet, but that's not even needed.
Right.
But I think where things are heading is with video and real world physical application. So self-driving cars from Tesla and others, humanoid robots. There's Tesla and there's all the Chinese makers. There's a couple makers in the US, Figure AI and Aptronic. Drones, you can have a lot with video. You need a ton of compute for video, like combining that video and sensor data. So I agree that there's going to be a continued explosion with data centers,
Mhm.
and yeah, to power them, it's hard because there's all these gas turbine companies that are out there. The biggest one is GE Vernova,
Right.
but also Caterpillar has one. There's a Japanese company that makes gas turbines. There's some others. This is not investment advice. Um, I think they're all trying to increase capacity given the backlogs and all that. Um, and then so data centers are looking at, where can we get power? And there's no all these small modular reactors for nuclear, there's no working prototypes yet. So I think we're hoping that working prototypes get built and the US government allowed a bunch of them to make them. So hopefully that they get built and they work. Um, you're also looking at potentially solar and other things, but you really need the power to be firm, to be online all the time. So you could do solar and wind, but then you also need to add batteries, and you may need to add batteries anyways.
Anyway,
Like
yes.
Elon said with the Colossus that they had to add
Mhm.
mega pack to smooth everything out. Um, so you need firm power. And we don't want to go back to coal either. And I don't think oil is a good you can do oil power plants, but I think those are pretty heavy polluters as well. And that's not really, as far as I know, it's not something that's scaled up.
Yeah. So my question was whether you guys, because I knew you had looked at the one company, I'm trying to give you an advertisement here.
Hmm.
Not intentionally, but sort of, is this a category of business that you're looking at? I mean, there's going to be what it looks to me like to me is there's going to be a lot of winners, a whole bunch of winners. You can start with Nvidia, Tesla, but there's going to be a lot of winners. But one of the winning categories, probably the maybe next to Tesla, who
Hmm.
also has energy, of course. Probably energy as a category is going to be the biggest winner, and whether this is something you guys are trying to become an expert in.
Yeah, so there's all these gas turbine makers that are back ordered for like three
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
And so there's other companies we're looking at that can get you electricity from natural gas. And if this is airing tomorrow, that's okay.
It's-
This can't air tonight.
all right, we'll make sure this one is the one that's on Thursday. Okay.
So um, one company that can make power from natural gas is Bloom Energy, which we invested in the past, and they really haven't gotten any many orders with data centers yet because it's a different way of making power from natural gas. So they use a fuel cell. They're not actually burning the natural gas, but there's a process where they put it through these very fine membranes or whatever, and they're able to extract the energy from it. It still breaks apart the compound, so it goes from methane to water and carbon dioxide. Um, so that's a way where they have the capacity to make more. It's not traditional, so a lot of these companies are like, well, we don't know how to service them. We're not used to this. This is different. It's a different payback time. But if you need the power, and
Yeah,
these are
right,
very efficient in making power, you don't have thermal loss. Um, you need the power, you're going to get it however you can, and this is a way to have firm power where it's always on. It's not something that's going to vary by the sun or the wind.
right. Interesting. Okay, so yeah, so to your point, it's kind of like a lot of the majors are uh, turning back on 3 Mile Island or turning on other nuclear facilities that have been shut down. That wouldn't have been a thing if the demand wasn't so off the charts. They're like, okay, that's a possibility. Maybe it won't.
Yeah.
And there are,
And the reason they turned off 3 Mile Island is it was not economical.
right?
It was too expensive.
Right. But now it's
Uh,
like, whatever.
so, they can turn some of these back on, but one issue they have is um, you may need to refile like an interconnect thing to get it back on the grid, and then that can lead to delays. So they may have let those expire, and that creates some paperwork and regulation. Whereas with Bloom Energy or just in general, you could choose to make your own power on site. So that's
Okay.
why gas turbines are very big. You can
Right.
just make the power right on site. So that's what they're doing. They did with Colossus on a temporary basis,
Mhm.
and they're still doing some.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And so where there is natural gas, those states like Montana, Texas, Pennsylvania, maybe even Indiana, some of these places where there's some fracking going on, potentially with these on-site turbines will have a huge advantage.
Mhm. Or, where things are in relation to the natural gas pipelines.
Pipelines that already exist. Yeah.
Yeah, there's big pipelines for natural gas.
All right.
I
Um,
think in general, you want to try and pick winners or the dominant players. Sometimes it can be hard because companies may not be pure plays.
yeah.
So GE Vernova, I'm not sure how much other things they have going on besides making gas turbines.
Oh,
So
they're working on SMRs.
yeah,
But they're saying it's 2031 before they're going to be out with their
yeah,
ship SMRs. Yeah.
yeah, they're a little slower on their date. Um, so you have this give and take where you might want to go with a pure play from a stock picking standpoint, but then you might be picking a player that is like a number two or number three player in the industry, and their economics may not be as good.
Right. Right.
So that can be a bit of a challenge.
So that's what you use your LLM for, is to ask, is
That's
the
right.
best.
You can ask about competitive differences.
Yeah.
Like ChatGPT Deep Research is really good for this. Grok has a deep search
Mhm, mhm.
capability. That's pretty good too.
Do you end up arguing with Grok?
Well, Grok's very good at arguing. I haven't done it in a while, but Grok will take like the devil's advocate side of the argument.
But Grok is always kind about it. It goes, I see your point. However,
Yep.
I had about a 45-minute argument with Grok the other day, and I couldn't get over how good I felt about myself at the end of the
Yeah.
argument because Grok kept telling me how smart I was, and then
I
telling,
think it I think it can help surface information that's out there, but you still have to be careful about the conclusions it's drawing. So like, asking it to value companies, I think can be a little dangerous. But you can get its assumptions and have it help you build a valuation model. But if like the assumptions are wrong or off, too optimistic, excuse me, then I think it can be a risky proposition.
all right. So the goal of this particular show, just to wrap it up, the goal that I had in mind here is that, yeah, we all know AI is a big deal.
Hmm.
Everybody knows AI is a big deal. I don't think, I don't know, maybe everybody's already thinking this way, but I'm not sure that people are thinking the way that we outlined it here.
Hmm.
AI is the biggest deal on the table, and it solves a lot of the subsidiary problems if it happens or when it happens. I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah,
It's going to happen. So it sounds,
yeah, it's already happening.
it's
Yeah.
such a big deal that it's going to solve the things that we are thinking right now are the biggest things on our plate, the big beautiful bill, the bond problem right now. The bonds, although they did quite well today, thank you very much. Nice rally. But all when I say today, that was Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Because this is Thursday, people are watching.
Hmm.
Anyway, the bonds did very well on Wednesday. But these things are, we're sitting here every day talking about the major problems that we're facing in
Hmm.
terms of the debt, the deficits, the big beautiful bill, et cetera. And yet, kind of, they all go away when we start seeing, I would say anything over 3.5. If we can consistently be over 3.5 GDP,
Hmm.
over 3%, 3.5% net of inflation on the productivity numbers, pretty much all of these things go away. Now, we have new things, but most of those things will go away.
Hmm. Yeah, this is just one way we're looking to play it. Beyond Tesla, which is like we believe the biggest real world AI company, we own Lemonade stock. So they're, as I mentioned earlier, uh, doing a great job implementing AI, where 100% of their coding is done by AI now. Um, and a lot of their customer service is handled by AI, and their customers give it great reviews when the AI handles it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they're happy with it. I think there's a lot of different ways to play this. We're looking for companies that are extremely serious about implementing AI. That's what we're looking at as far as investing. So it's not just a bunch of software or AI hardware companies. It's also companies in banking, insurance, um, things like that.
Where they are implementing, where they're serious about
Hmm.
implementing. That makes total sense to me. All right, with that, I think we'll bid the crowd adieu again. And Bradford Ferguson of Rebellionaire, I want to thank you again, as always, for coming on. And this week, doing two shows. And we'll look forward to getting back at it again next Sunday. I don't know, Wednesday, Thursday. I don't know what's going to happen. When I get back to town, I'll have to rethink everything because Lutz is taking a breather. I can't tell you what he's doing because I don't know, but I have
Hmm.
some guesses, and he told me to shut my mouth even about my guesses. So we'll see if and when Jeff will be able to come back and be on YouTube again.
Maybe he's bringing some smartphone production to the US.
I have no idea. And if I did, I'd have to shoot you or something. Thanks again, Bradford, and to all of you out there. It's been great talking to you.